And we traveled to a different part of the world to bring you today's episode of the Mike Gallagher Show. Greetings and welcome to Jerusalem. We are in Israel for the week, talking with people on the ground over the war with Hamas. We're going to talk to a whole lot of fascinating folks here. But, of course, today is a big breaking news day back in the United States. And so before we sort of dive in head first with our partners, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, tomorrow, today we're going to talk South Carolina, the primary, the shellacking that Nikki Haley suffered at the hands of Donald Trump. We're going to talk about the slaughter of a 22-year-old nursing student at the hands, the police say, of an illegal immigrant from Venezuela who was identified and detained not once, but at least twice that we know of. And also, and that story is just sending shockwaves throughout the country. And then back on the political front, earlier today, Ronna McDaniel is announcing she's stepping down. And we'll get your reaction to all of that. So the great news about being in Jerusalem is that everything works technologically the way it always does. Our number is 800-655-MIKE. You can call and text us on the MyPillow text line, 800-655-6453. We're going to keep up with all the breaking news, all the headlines, all the developing stories, both in Israel and, of course, today in the United States, where Trump posted a 20-point lead when all the counting was over. Roughly, it was about 59 to 39%. Nikki Haley is vowing to stay in the race, which is one of life's biggest mysteries. One of the biggest mysteries in the universe is, what is she really up to? The other mystery of the universe is how I convinced Joey Hudson to travel with me to Tel Aviv over the weekend and get ready for our broadcast this week here in Jerusalem. But he's always up for a challenge, and one of his challenges today, Joey Hudson, who is our frequent guest host, longtime South Carolina political pundit, a morning host for years in the upstate of South Carolina, and now host of his very own podcast. And you're covering, Joey, South Carolina from over here, because nobody knows South Carolina politics better than you. So what the heck? We can wear a couple of hats at the same time, right? We'll be in Israel, but we're going to cover Trump's big win over Nikki Haley in the Palmetto State. Sound like a fair equation?
Absolutely, and isn't it amazing what technology allows you to do? Imagine doing this back when you started in radio, and you and I did a few remotes back in the day where it took a van, a huge van to carry the equipment around. Now we can do it with, through the internet. So yes, what a great opportunity to be here in God's country, literally. But to talk about what happened back in my home state of South Carolina, and was it big for Trump on Saturday?
Well, let's talk about South Carolina. Nikki Haley said, look, I saw her post last night on social media. Well, I'm an accountant. I know 40% isn't 50%, but 40% is still a lot. Let's start with the big mystery. After Trump convincingly beats her over the weekend by 20 points in a state that was an open primary, where Democrats and independents undoubtedly voted for Governor Haley, Joey, what is her end game? What is her goal? Why is she refusing to bow out?
That's a real mystery, because there's no path for Nikki Haley to win, obviously, and there's no path, I don't believe, for Nikki Haley to be part of a future Trump administration again. So I'm not sure, but you talked about some of the numbers there. Donald Trump won big in upstate South Carolina. Let me read some of the other counties to you. Abbeville County, 76% Donald Trump to Haley's 23%. Anderson County, 69%. Greenwood County, 64%. Lawrence County, 76%. Pickens County, 68%. Union County, 84%. Trump won big in a lot of areas of South Carolina.
Well, I guess one of the never Trumpers I know said, "Oh, she took Charleston. She took Charleston." What is that? Some kind of a moral victory?
Well, remember, Charleston also elected Joe Cunningham to the U.S. House of Representatives just a few years ago. Nancy Mace was able to wrestle that one back from him, but Charleston has unfortunately sort of turned purple. So I'm not sure that if I'm a Republican, I'm going to be bragging too much about winning Charleston.
Now, a little later this hour, we're scheduled to talk to Drew McKissick, who is the South Carolina GOP chair. He's also co-chair with Ronna McDaniel. Yes. I hope he'll be able to join us because we want to get his take on Ronna stepping down. Did you see that one coming, Joey?
Well, not as it happened. I mean, I know that President Trump has been talking about making some changes, but yeah, and there's a bit of a twist there as far as Chairman McKissick. So I'm going to be interested to hear what he has to say to the Mike Gallagher Show listeners today of his path forward and what the future is there.
Let's share one of the conversations you had over the weekend during the South Carolina primary. You spoke to a fellow by the name of Nat Loip. Introduce Nat to the audience and tell us what you guys talked about, Joey.
Well, Nate is the chairman of the 4th District in South Carolina, GOP, and he's talking about unifying, that it's time for Republicans to come together, and we're hearing this all around the country, that it's time for the GOP to get behind President Trump to defeat Joe Biden in November. And, you know, it's interesting. Typically, party officials, they kind of stay out of this in the primary, but Nate was pretty specific, as I heard other county chairmen in the upstate of South Carolina saying, hey, Nikki, it's time to get out. Here's Nate Loip saying, let's rally around who's going to be eventually the nominee.
In South Carolina, we pick presidents, we pick the presidential nominees, and that has been true for many, many cycles, save one in the not too distant past. Super Tuesday, I just don't see the trajectory changing too much. We do have some open primary states, but a lot of those are still winner take all, and people want to vote for the winner. And although there are people who may not support President Trump, I think a lot of them will be discouraged, probably stay home. So I think Super Tuesday is going to be a glorious night for President Trump. I believe that the nomination is already wrapped up at this point. I think it'll be even more wrapped up by Super Tuesday. And at that point, I think we really need to button down and say we gave other candidates a chance at our nomination, but the handwriting has been on the wall for a long time. It's time to unify and support President Trump and prepare for that general election, whether it be President Biden, which I'm not quite sure that he's going to be the nominee, but whoever it is, we need to be all hands on deck for President Trump.
Well, you know, that's what normal people say. Now, yes. Nikki Haley is not one of the normal people, and I'm getting flooded already on the MyPillow text line with text messages saying things like, whoever is backing Nikki will back her financially for a third-party run. They'll do anything to stop Trump. Here's another text from Arkansas. Nikki Haley will run as an independent, taking votes for Trump. More and more people are saying that, Joey, that's got to be what she eyes as her path to either run on this no labels, platform or as an independent, just trying to siphon votes away from Donald Trump. Do you think that's really what she's planning to do?
I don't see that happening. I mean, some of her large donors, I think, are already getting ready to bail on her. And
the Kochs, the Kochs already.
Yeah, the Koch brothers, already said, and they were a large source of her funds. So I don't see how she goes. I don't see how she gets to Super Tuesday. Maybe she does, but certainly after Super Tuesday, I think she needs to take Nate's suggestion there and get behind the Trump so we can beat Biden in November.
All right, Joey Hudson, we'll check in with you again shortly. Joey covering the South Carolina primary for us here in Israel, where we are both headquartered all this week.